We're playing hot or not on Tuesday's episode of the Just Baseball Show. Today is the 30th. There are 30 days in April or 31 days in April. Do you know?
Oh, you're asking the wrong guy.
Dude, I
You're
don't.
asking the absolute wrong guy. I would say there's 31 is my guess.
Okay. All I know is that it's Tuesday and it's presented by BetMGM. Jack and Aram. We're playing hot or not. So we've got four hot hitters right now to open the year that maybe we weren't necessarily expecting to be hot like this. So we were talking right before we hit the record button, like Aaron Judge is on fire right now. Okay, but it's Aaron Judge. Like what is there to really dive into versus the not guys that are cold that we were expecting to really hit the ground running offensively to open the year. Also, Joey Loperfido got the call to the Houston Astros. I'm going to really lean on you for that one because obviously that's a guy that you've gotten to know really well over the last few years. And
Mhm.
I've got a couple things off the top.
It's
There is a
30 days, by the way. It's 30 days, of
It's
course.
30 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had like a 50-50 shot.
Yeah. Well, not technically, no. It was 80-20 that I'd be wrong there. There's just
Yeah.
no way I was going to get that one right. It's a
The
coin
odds
flip, but like
stacked.
we know which side the coin's going to flip there.
Speaking of which, there's a job opening. Mr. Met is open. Are you going to apply to be Mr. Met?
So do they like so when there's turnover with the mascot job, is it the same suit or do you think they get a new one?
No, no, no. It's the same suit, but
That's
there are. So here's the thing. I learned about it from my time in Fort Wayne because I had to put on the mascot suit a couple of times.
really.
Oh yeah, welcome to minor league baseball, dude. Um, they send it to a specialty mascot suit cleaner. I think it's in Chicago or in the Chicagoland area. There is a place where like every mascot suit is shipped and they dry clean the mascot suit. So don't worry, like you're not going to have other people's essence in there because they send it to a professional cleaner. That's a thing that people pay real money for to
Do-
get their mascot suits cleaned.
Another business I just never thought of. Do you think that like they have to sign a waiver for like the 1 p.m. Sunday games? You could actually have heat stroke in there on like a 1 p.m. Sunday New York City game.
Yeah, I think you assume responsibility.
That's tough. Because I was gonna say like if I could just not drink water and then just like get really hot in there and then sue Uncle Steve, I might take the job.
So it is full time. Manager mascot operations is the exact title, Mr. and Mrs. Met. It pays competitively. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I see it maxes at like 89 grand a year.
Sounds good to me. That's not a bad gig. I am not I don't have the personality for it, I don't think. Like
So
I don't think I could do it. I also just I remember from one of my summer collegiate gigs, broadcasting, they did not use that mascot cleaning service. I can confirm. And
uh-huh.
like I wouldn't even be looking, and I would just know when he's coming closer because I could just smell. So that's what I always think of now when I think of the mascot thing. But seriously, it's a pretty good paying gig. You have free tickets to a game, and you just have to get like harassed by people all the time and who forget that you're a human in there. But other than that, like it's fun, right?
Couple of highlights from the qualifications page. This is all from Sportico. Proven experience as a mascot or in a similar role, ability to perform physically demanding activities, including dancing and performing in a costume for extended periods. So you're out because
I'm
of
out. I'm out. Yeah, that's the thing is I'm gonna be like sitting down, like trying to like just rest my legs a little bit, and people are gonna be like, "What's wrong with Mr. Matt?" So
yeah.
that sounds all you.
No, I'm good. Exceptional interpersonal skills and ability to interact with fans of all
No.
ages. Unwavering commitment to professionalism and sportsmanship. That's absolutely me. I still have
Yeah.
my J card. Flexible schedule with availability for evening, weekend, and holiday games and events. That's what you sign up for when you work in sports. You work nights and
Yes.
weekends and holidays. Reliable transportation is a big one. They don't want Mr. Met on the subway. And then dance and performing arts background is a plus. So that's probably where you fit in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there's been a job description that fits me less. I think I'd have a better chance at like a finance or banking job.
Yeah. Are you gonna ditch this for finance or baking in the next like couple months?
Yeah, it's on the table. It's
Gotcha.
definitely something I've been thinking about with
Uh,
absolutely zero back. I don't think I took one business class or anything. I avoided that like the plague.
I was a marketing minor. I will tell you, marketing masterclass in Tampa. Have you seen the City Connects yet?
No.
Oh my gosh, they're clean.
They're
Go look at
clean.
them right now.
Okay.
There's a Devil Ray riding a skateboard that's stitched onto, I think, the sleeve. There
Oh,
is a Ray
that's
that's
those are
shaped as a
hard.
bridge. It looks so good, man. I think that's the best City Connect that we've got.
Oh yeah. Yeah, these are tough. I like it.
They're
I like
awesome.
them leaning into the old, but like in a little bit of a modern spin. Because that
Yeah.
old like Wade Boggs
So
race,
good.
I've always loved that. That was like a classic tailgate fraternity type of jersey there, right? But oh, that they did it well. They
They
did it
did it
well.
well.
I'll give them a thumbs up on that one.
Okay, so top three City Connect jerseys for me. Now, Tampa, I think, is number one. I think the White Sox are number two. I love the South Side. And then San Diego, like cool mint. Those are three for me. I love them. Space City, I also like am starting to really like a little bit more. The Met City Connect is also beautiful. That
I
gray,
don't even know them. Like I need like a chart with all of them, but the one I do just remember that just won't leave my head is the Phillies one, and I think it's the worst one of all time.
it's really not good.
It's really not
I
good.
think the Cubs really dropped the ball with theirs too. The Wrigleyville with the navy blue. It doesn't look good. So that's tough. But we have uniform correspondents on staff at Just
Yes.
Baseball.
Oh,
Great writing
plenty.
stuff. Ethan Badowski and Tim Kelly, I go to them for all of my uniform stuff. So
Yes.
you know what? I'm going to go right back to him. And I hope Ethan agrees with me that Tampa City Connect are number one now. Joey Loperfido is going to wear the Space City at some point
Yes,
this year.
sir.
Joey Loperfido, the minor league leader at this point in homers. I think it's 13 at time of
Hmm?
call up. So he leads all of baseball, all of professional baseball, I should say, because Condon's flirting with 30 already at
Yes.
Georgia. But he leads all of professional baseball with 13 homers. This guy was playing with his hair on fire after not making the team out of camp when we thought that was a strong possibility. They opted for Jose Abreu, understandably so. John Singleton, also understandably so. Guy's a vet. He's on the other side of 30. But Lope goes to Sugarland, and he absolutely kills. What are Astros fans going to get from Joey Loperfido?
I think a dynamic player that they kind of need right now in a lot of different ways. And people were concerned about the swing and miss because Loperfido got up to AAA or started the year in AAA, and I think just had a couple games where it didn't look like he was totally on time. And I think he had the one game where he punches out 6 times, really inflates the strikeout rate. But if you look at the contact rates and everything, and you look over the last couple seasons, like he's been able to keep that in the low 20s. And I think that's, maybe at the big league level, it's a mid to high 20s, but he manages it. I think he'll manage it pretty well by walking as well. And he offers a lot of power. It's a lot of tools and fun, I think, that you're going to get with a player like this. He's 6'4", left-handed hitter who can, I mean, he's already hit a home run 114 miles an hour in AAA this year. So he's got plus juice, but also it's to all fields. He can run, he can play center, he can play left, he can play right, he can play first, he can play second if you really needed him to, but they haven't had him there at all, and they obviously won't need him to. But the point is he can kind of play all over. He steals bags, he does a little bit of everything. And when you're looking at a team that, has gotten the worst production in Major League Baseball from first base,
Yeah.
given what Jose Abreu has struggled to do. And
Unreal.
even Singleton's been better of late, but, he was a little slow out of the gate. Like, he adds something that I think they really need, which is a shot in the ass, but also they can figure out ways to get him in the lineup. Chas McCormick's been bad this year too. So if you want to get Abreu in against a lefty, I think you could still put a Loperfido out there, even if you don't mind the left on left. But even if it's not a lefty situation, you want to have Abreu in the lineup. You could still have him go hit for McCormick. There's some days where he could hit for Myers. Like, there's other ways that you can get him in the lineup with relative consistency to where I think it's not just a total sub for Abreu. They're going to probably try to start him a few times a week, see if anything can come alive for him. And that's the good thing with Loperfido is it's not one or the other. You can kind of find other ways to get him in the lineup too.
Yeah, and it's not like Myers is lighting the world on fire either. Jake Myers is hitting under 220. He's got an OBP under 300. I know he's slugging a good bit, but in a limited sample, I think it's like 51 plate appearances so far
Yeah.
this year. So, yeah, there are places that he can hop in. He's almost like a unique cut of utility. When you think utility, you think, okay, he can play both middle infield spots. He can probably play third base too, but, he may be able to hop in center. This guy is, I don't know who else is a first base center field type? It's almost like the Kmart Bellinger or like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
young Bellinger, right? Where it's first base, center, could be passable in a corner.
Yeah, which I think again is what they need because they're going to ride the hot hand. Their season's slipping away from them.
Yes.
I mean, they're in a spot now where they're 9-19, and they need anything that they can get. So they don't care who's a vet and who's what and who's that. Like if you're hitting, you're playing, and especially when you see the short shelf life that this core has. Bregman's going to be a free agent. There's desperation here to a degree. So yeah, that's the good thing with Loperfido is he gets up there, and yeah, it might not be only first base Abreu, you're never hitting again because you do still need to give Abreu ABs you're paying him. You got to see if he can turn this thing around one way or another.
Yeah,
just maybe not.
How long can you do that?
No, I just don't think you do it every day. You do it like, okay, he plays twice a week and just see what you get there. And then if it just continues to be terrible, then maybe you clear the roster spot. What I like is he can pretty much be an elevated version of what Dubon has been for them too, because Dubon spelled some starts in right field. He's played left. And instead of like third base, which is what Dubon will fill in at second base, you'll have him fill in at first base as well. So I think it's a really exciting time for Loperfido to go to a team that is filled with talent and try to be that spark plug. But also he kind of gets up there, and I don't think he has too much to lose, man. I mean, he's just a guy that's putting up great numbers in AAA. Is going to have more opportunities open up for him after this year, anyways. But I think he can get up there and stay, and there's a lot that he can bring to the table that they haven't had. And it's been cool to see him, his journey. Another guy that kind of got screwed by the 2020 shortened draft because easily would have been, a fifth, sixth round pick. Could have easily been a little bit earlier than that. Just so many arms went off the board. And then, has a phenomenal year, but being a fourth year guy goes seventh round. And the Astros just did another good job of IDing a really good player. And aside from like a bad 15 games to start his pro career, he has raked at every stop since then. And it's just a great dude, easy to root for.
And he will, in all likelihood, deliver the first homer from an Astros first baseman this season. That's so hard to wrap.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Everything you need to know, man. And like Alex Bregman, I think it was Cespedes Family Barbecue that does the dude, why haven't you homered yet list? And like, I mean, we're there. Bregman hasn't homered, but at this point, Jose Abreu hasn't homered, John Singleton hasn't homered, and it's like, what is going on? Also, you mentioned he kind of spells Dubon. Dubon's got one homer this year. Power is not a part of his game at all. They are starved for power.
100%.
Can I ask, can Loperfido pitch?
Unfortunately, no. He's one of the few guys I think at Duke that couldn't really hop on the mound as much too. But the one thing I will say too is he's all fields power, which I love. Like he will catch balls deep and go the other way, and I can see him like hitting balls over the Crawford boxes. Like this is a guy that I think can hit it out foul pole to foul pole in that ballpark. And if he gets hot, he could end up being one of the power bats that they really needed. And the stat of no home runs at first base, like that's everything you need to know. If he's swinging it, then he will take the everyday spot at first base. And, Abreu will just have to be the clubhouse guy and pinch hitter.
Yep. All right. Quick word from our friends at Gametime before we get to the hot and cold hitters. We've all found ourselves in a situation similar to this. You see that there's a good pitching matchup. You're willing to drive an hour or two for it, or you're willing to get on the subway and go to Queens for Cubs Mets, or a concert that popped up out of absolutely nowhere. So you go scanning for tickets, roadblocks everywhere. No good deals, nothing at the last minute. List goes on. We're going to fix that for you right now. New friend of the show is Gametime, which is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. That makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. You get killer last minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and your lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying big league tickets. I've had a great time with Gametime. I'm sure you're having a great time with Gametime. I know Peter went to a couple Yankee games with Gametime. Use Gametime for last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all that. I love the all-in pricing feature. You don't get hit with the, holy smokes, how many fees are there feeling at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying. Download the Gametime app. Create an account. Use code JUSTBASEBALL. All one word, all caps, JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off your first purchase of tickets. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off. You can download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, now hot hitters. Let's do it. I've got four guys: Alec Boehm, Jordan Westberg, C.J. Abrams, Stephen Kwan. Want to go through why these guys are swinging the bat so ridiculously well to open the year. And I want to start with the hottest hitter on the planet, just baseball's player of the week. Alec Boehm, over his last 10 games, is hitting 548. He's 23 for 42 in his last 10. He's got 12 extra base hits, 15 RBIs. He's got a 1554 OPS. He's got a 12-game hitting streak entering play on Monday. Multi-hit days in 7 of his last 8 and in 8 of his last 10. On the season, he's got a better WAR than any other year in his career.
That's what I was going to say. Holy crap. Holy crazy. Crap. That's everything you need to know.
He's what? He's 1.8 right now. His previous best was 1.4, which came in 22 and 23.
Yes.
This is a different Alec Boehm. And like I don't want to say I made the joke. I made the point somewhat jokingly that this is the year that Alec Boehm breaks out before the season, because like we've been saying that for the last 3 years. It's Alec Boehm time. Yeah. It's finally Alec Boehm time. Guess what, Aram? It's finally Alec Boehm time.
It's funny because I finally think I was giving up this year, and not giving up on him as a player, just giving up on like this Alec Boehm ever coming to fruition, just because I felt like we'd seen a lot of AVs. He's 27 and things can happen. You know, guys all figure it out at 27 all the time. But we had gotten to the point now where we had 2 full seasons and really another 115 game campaign where league average hitter, just kind of frustratingly never walking and hitting the ball on the ground. And the EVs are a little bit better than you'd expect when you see, the slug. But at the end of the day, like it just was never there. All of a sudden, it's just a totally different story this year. And he's defending better too. It just everything is better. Like, I don't know if he's going to sustain, being one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball, but you can buy into a lot of the batted ball data that we're seeing, I think. And I feel like he's just starting to get more comfortable and figure out who he is. The funny thing, though, is you look across like the batted ball data overall, and there's not like a major change one way or another. The launch angle is relatively similar. The exit velocities are pretty much the same. It just seems like he's controlling his at-bats better. He's cut the chase down a little bit. And I think the swing decisions just being better overall and putting himself in positions to elevate and putting himself in positions, I think, like where you can leverage his hitters' counts a little bit more has been helpful. But there's nothing jumping off the page to me about Alec Boehm other than the contact rates are a little bit better. He's walking more, and he seems to just be leveraging his advantage counts more to try to do some damage.
How about breaking pitches? That's the thing that jumps out to me on Savant. So against breaking balls last year, Alec Boehm hit 276 with a 423 slug. Pretty good. This year, he's had 34 plate appearances, finished with a breaking ball. He's hitting 452 against breaking pitches right now with an 839 slug. He's got to be one of, if not the best hitter in baseball against breaking balls right now. I'm also looking at average EV, 88 mile an hour average exit velocity last year against breaking balls, 93 mile an hour average EV against breaking balls. So he's seeing them exceptionally well. He's always been a decent enough fastball hitter. He slugged over 400 against fastballs. He's slugging 520 against fastballs, which is like good. It's good. But 839 against breaking balls. This is a new level. And if you hammer them that well, you're probably not going to get blown up by heaters because you're going to start to see more of them.
Yeah, I'm going to need to do a swing dive into Boehm. There's got to be some sort of tangible adjustment because you mentioned the breaking balls and then the contact rates going up also stands out. And then also he's hitting velocity. So he's really hitting everything. Last year against 93 plus, and I know it's early, but you're still seeing plenty of 93 plus already this year. Last year against 93 plus, he hit 222 with a 673 OPS. So far this year against 93 plus, Alec Boehm's hitting 360 with a 989 OPS. So it's early for sure, but there's clearly something tangibly different here. I'll have to dive into the swing mechanics side of things because I am fast. Like there has to be, even if it's subtle, there needs to be like some sort of mechanical adjustment here because this is what we like always knew Alec Boehm could be, especially when he was a top prospect, first round pick, everything like that. But it just became a little bit of a question of like, is he ever going to be able to provide the power and the well-rounded offensive profile that I think a lot of people dreamt on, especially at third base. So, I mean, this is a huge development for the Phillies if it can continue. I mean, absolutely massive.
Are you a Phillies fan yet? I declared yesterday on the show that I'm like officially a Phillies fan. And I know that, we both tried dunking on them in 22 for the roster construction and it bit us in the ass. And we've profusely apologized for that. And like
Yes.
we were wrong. Like vibes sometimes are what matters. The vibes here are undeniably great. And Bohm playing the way he is. I made the point, Castellanos, even in the thick of brutal offensive struggles, like actually wanting to give a shit defensively. He made a great play in San Diego on Saturday night. I mean, man, like it feels like this team is the most likable in baseball at this point.
They're up there. I think they're a lot of fun to watch because I think it reminds us almost of like our high school team where it's a bunch of guys that just like playing together and are having fun out there. And the results have been, winning ball games. I definitely would love to see that Phillies team get it, especially because I want Harper to get a ring. But
Uh-huh.
no, I'm with you. I was actually just having this conversation yesterday of some of the teams that I just gravitate towards. Like if all things are equal, I'm looking at the slate. What am I going to click on MLB TV? For whatever reason, I have an affinity for the Padres. I just like always have with the talent that they have there. I've always been a Machado guy, but the Phillies are really where I end up gravitating towards a ton. Really, really as much as any team right now, other than the Dodgers and some of the obvious super loaded teams.
So for me, it's Phillies, Mariners, Braves, but like it's kind of always been the Braves. Phillies, Mariners, Diamondbacks are my three that I really gravitate
I
towards.
watch the Mariners more than I should because they're so frustrating.
Yeah.
But like, and I love what I mean George Kirby doing what he's doing
And
right now.
Gilbert, man, like a Logan Gilbert and a Castillo, shit,
Like,
like Bryce Miller has looked awesome.
man, is there an offense that's more frustrating in
No.
baseball right now? I don't think there is. It's just absurd.
Yeah. Another guy in the American League here is Jordan Westburg of the Baltimore Orioles. Jordan Westburg has already surpassed his WAR total from last year. He's at what 1.3 in 25 games at this point. He was at one flat in 68 games last year. Jordan Westburg on the year is slashing 304, 360, 543. He's got a 161 WRC plus. He had a 97 WRC plus last year, despite him walking less this year than he was last year. This is an impact thing, and he is hidden in that lineup. He is hitting seventh for a reason, and like he's probably the seventh or eighth guy you name when you think about the Baltimore Orioles. But guess what? He and Gunnar have probably been the two best. I know Adley's been really good. Kauser's been amazing, but in terms of consistent everyday production, it's likely him and Gunnar.
I mean, Westberg's a good hitter. And I think that's all this is. This is your young, good hitter getting comfortable.
Yeah.
You did say it's an impact thing, and that is another aspect of it too. I think when he got up last year, it was a little bit of, oh, I need to survive. I need to make contact. I need to put the ball in play and be, a more well-rounded hitter to stick in the lineup. But this is a dude that puts up plus EVs. And I don't know if he's just leaning into the power a bit more and just knowing, hey, I'm going to swing and miss inside the zone a fair amount. That's just going to happen. Or he added a little bit more impact physically because so far this year's 90th percentile exit velocity has jumped to almost 108 miles an hour. That is in elite territory. Like that is in the conversation of, some of the better power hitters in the game. Once you get to the 108 range, like that's really where it gets pretty nuts.
And you wouldn't think about it looking at him. You would never
No,
think that.
no. So, I mean, that's a really exciting aspect to this whole thing because he doesn't need to hit for a ton of average. Like you said, he's like your 7 hitter and he's a third baseman. So you want him to slug. And if he's slugging, the one thing I do want to see is that walk rate, like you said, because he is going to swing and miss more. And I think that's something that we'll see. Like the strikeout rate will have some ebbs and flows. Right now, it's been great. He's been able to manage that. But if you look at the contact rates, it's something that'll probably normalize a little bit. So I'd love to see him offset that with some walk. But the fact that he is crushing baseballs like this, I mean, I knew he had power. I didn't think he had, 111 dead center off Chris Martin power for, I didn't think that we'd be seeing him routinely hitting balls 110 plus, but here we are. I thought we'd see him flirt with that. And again, we saw it, not 105, 90th percentile, touching 106 in previous years, but this is a different level of power from Westbrook.
Yeah, no, we saw the homers come in Norfolk and in Bowie. We knew that he was a homer threat, I think, as he made his way through the minor leagues, but we didn't understand the level of whoa, like those types of homers. It was, hey, let's find the wall, let's hit it 2 rows over that.
And he's doing it.
He's
He's
doing it.
doing it way more than that. I mean, again, it's cool to see him too, like in a stadium where it's hard to get it out. Like he had a 388-foot fly out to left field.
Man,
He's still getting them out in
dude,
that ballpark, just crushing them. He has
I
2 380-foot flyouts, by the way, to left field. So he could easily be even better than we've seen statistically this year.
dude, I see some of the distances on balls that get like 1 or 2 rows deep down that or in left center there in Baltimore. And I'm like, why did you do that to your hitters?
It's so they got to change it back. I
They
think the new
have to
ownership
change it
will.
back.
I mean, he had a 404-foot homer that was like a wall scraper.
Yeah, dude, like
What are we doing?
what are we doing here? You shouldn't like that shouldn't be happening. I and listen, I love baseball because there are non-uniform dimensions everywhere. I love the uniqueness of each venue that we have in baseball. That's one of my favorite things. Like, hey, every rim is 10 feet, but every mound is 60 feet 6 inches. Every base path is 90 feet. Like those things are uniform, but the things that you can alter, I appreciate. But when it's that egregious, and when I see balls hit like 410 from Adley Rutschman or Ryan Mountcastle that are just getting over the wall, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I'd
That
lose my
shouldn't be
mind.
happening.
I'd
I'd be
lose my mind.
losing my mind. I'm with you. Is CJ Abrams a power hitter now? What's the deal? CJ
Yes.
Abrams, yeah, maybe. CJ Abrams of the Washington Nationals, 24 games. He's slashing 296, 367, 612 slug, 6 homers, 15 driven in, already 19 runs scored. He's got a 164 WRC plus. He gonna hit 30 homers?
I think he is. The way he gets into his pull side pop is just impressive. And this is just another guy that I think really started to figure out how to just be a little bit of everything, right? Like you don't have to be slapping on the ground speedster, but you also don't need to try to sell out and try to be a different kind of hitter. I think he's just found this balance. What's interesting is he is elevating as consistently as ever. I mean, for a guy that is that fast, to see a 30% ground ball rate is pretty crazy. But he, again, is just making contact a little bit further out front, which is something I'm going to talk a little bit about when we get to the cold hitters. But doing that, especially in those hitters counts where he knows he can go out and get one, and then still always having the fallback of, okay, 2 strikes, I can slap it on the ground, and there's a good chance I can beat it out. The way that he is pairing now improved power, both in a game and raw standpoint, and still being that speedster who can spray it, it is scary. I think that this is a guy that's going to be a face of the franchise type of piece for the Nationals moving forward, along with, Wood has higher upside and they've got some other pieces coming. But, I really see kind of that tandem of Abrams and Wood, and then of course Cruz behind them, as guys that can really usher this new era with the franchise. And I think we're getting a large enough sample now with Abrams dating back to the second half of last year to where you can really buy into what he is doing, both from a just hit and power perspective.
So, final form of this Nats offense with Abrams, Wood, Cruz, House, depends what you get from other prospects. If you were filling out the lineup card, where do you put CJ Abrams? Do you see him in 3, 4, 5 years as a 3 hitter, as a leadoff guy, as a 2 hole guy? Where do you see him?
I like him as that leadoff hitter that can, pace the league and lead off homers, unless Ronald Acuna or somebody's hitting leadoff still. But that leadoff hitter that can slug for you, because
So like
I
Springer.
think you could also go Cruz. I think Cruz is probably another guy that if in the final form of Dylan Cruz, I may prefer him leadoff and then Abrams second, because Cruz walks more. He's way more patient. He sees a lot more pitches. And I have a little bit of concern about, Cruz's ability to hit secondary. So like if he's not great against sliders, put him leadoff. No one wants to walk him to face Abrams and then Wood. So I recant that. I would go Cruz, Abrams, Wood. And I think that is so freaking fun.
That's really good, man. And then you've got some of these arms that are making their way through. Mitchell Parker, ace, right?
Mhm.
Mackenzie Gore, 99, ace. They have a bunch of aces.
Aces, yeah. Mackenzie Gore, ace still. We're pushing
Aces.
that narrative.
Josiah Gray, when he's back right, ace.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds great to me. No,
How
so
many?
one other note, by the way, too, before I forget. I wrote this in the piece that I wrote on Abrams last September.
Mhm.
But if you compare the 2022 batted ball data even to 2023, yes, the exit velocities jumped as he made some subtle adjustments to engage his lower half more and get more into the back hip, but also the path just improving so much more too to be able to elevate.
Yeah.
2022 ground ball rate of 51%. 2023, that dropped to 42%. Average launch angle in 2022 was 6.8 degrees. Average launch angle in 2023 was 14 degrees. Max EV jumped by 3 miles per hour. Home run to fly ball rate. So what percentage of your fly balls are leaving the yard?
Yeah.
Jumped by 10% from 2.7% to 12.7%. And that was a trend even more so in the second half of the season that just continued to, rear its head. And here we are in the beginning of this year seeing a lot more of the same. So I'm buying the change.
Just don't do the Joey Gallo thing. What's Joey Gallo's average launch angle? 40.6 degrees.
That's literally backwards, dude. Like
That's 10 degrees higher than the second highest, which is Parker Meadows. I mean, this is unbelievable watching Joey Gallo. He's never going to bounce into double plays, but like, what was it? Joey Gallo, it took him a billion ABs to hit a sacrifice fly. It's because everything hangs up forever and outfielders have time to gear up and make like a great throw. It's insane. I haven't seen a line drive from Joey Gallo in any of the plate appearances that I've
even
seen.
when we were in spring training, he brought down rain with some of these fly. Like it's as if he is trying to hit the ball straight up in the air. You know what it reminds me of? Like the biggest flex for coaches when we were in high school was you do the infield, outfield,
Yep.
and then can you toss the ball up to yourself and hit it up to the catcher and pop it up?
Yep.
Joey Gallo, when he's a coach, he's going to be nasty at that. He should just dig in, pretend he's doing a real AB, and take a swing, throw it to himself, take a swing, and he's going to hit perfect pop-ups to his catcher. That was always the ultimate flex for coaches. Gallo's going to have that in his bag.
He's going to be awesome. I forgot about two other aces. DJ Hers, Harley, and Susana, aces.
He touched 102 this week, by the way, Harley and
Susana?
Susana. Yeah, it's all that matters, right?
I don't know why I asked Susana. Like if DJ Hers hit 102, it would be leading, like it would be the top
It'd be CNN's top story.
DJ Hers at 102 miles an hour. That guy? Last hot hitter is Stephen Kwan of the Cleveland Guardians, friend of the program, Stephen Kwan. He's down from his 374 clip. I think that's what it peaked at. He's hitting a pedestrian 339 with a 458 slug. 3 homers in 27 games for Kwan. He had 11 in his previous 305 games. The lowest walk rate of his career to this point. Again, we're early. We're 27 games in, but the highest isolated power of his career. He's leaning into this shit, man. Like he's getting some ace swings off.
What's crazy too is he told us like, oh yeah, I'm going to, like we talked about, kind of leverage the hitter's counts, try to do some more damage. All 3 home runs have come in 0-1 or 2-2 counts. And the 2-2 count was a pitch from Chris Sale left on left.
Oh.
So,
Slider?
I mean, what?
Slider or fastball?
It was a sinker.
How do you do that?
Left on his hands at 94.
That's
so
divine intervention.
This is beyond me. Like this is because the EVs are like kind of the same. He's just backspinning more. I think he's just creating more loft and leverage. And if it's middle in, like he can sneak it out of there. The other one was in Oakland. Like there's no cheap shots in Oakland. You gotta poke it to get it out of Oakland. He hit it 424 feet. So I'm loving it, especially like with the way he kind of called his shot. He didn't come on and say like, oh, I'm going to hit a bunch of home runs this year, but he said, I want to hit for more power this year. Yeah. What does he do? He hits for more power this year. And he's still the great elite bat to ball guy, 96% in zone contact rate. I mean, that's going to be right there with anybody in baseball. That's probably better than Arias so far this year.
Probably. I mean, he's always going to be near the top, right? Even last year when he was like experiencing a down year when he hit below 300, and obviously his value, there are very few guys whose value will come from batting average, but Luis Arias is a guy whose value comes from batting average. Stephen Kwan, his value comes from batting average. I think about other guys. Like I think Terang is going to kind of fit that mold where his value will come from batting average because he'll get on base a little bit more. Hell, like I'm talking about a superstar here, but a lot of Trey Turner's value comes from batting average because he's an average defender. If he's leading the league in hits, it's right. And one of these guys that is really cold to open the year that we're going to talk about in Toronto, his value comes from batting average too. But Man, Quan, like the fact is, yes, he's hitting, he's over that 300 marker, which is the sign of a successful year for him. But I mean, you mentioned it, like he's making shit work in other avenues too.
So I have a question for you. You kind of spurred a thought in my mind. And not even a recency bias thing, because Arias all of a sudden hitting well. He's hitting 305 with a 724 OPS. But as a player, who would you rather have moving forward? Steven Kwan or Luis Arias?
Quan, Quan plays a Gold Glove caliber
Yep.
corner outfield.
Bingo. Bingo. I agree. And that's the craziest part is, I think Arias gets a lot of fanfare, especially because of winning the back-to-back batting titles.
Because he's the best at the batting average thing.
Yes, correct. But I'd rather have a guy slightly lower in the batting average department, even if you call the slug a wash and give you the defense that he's bringing, the speed that he's bringing, and just the more dynamic profile. I think, and that's not an indictment on Arias. It's a reminder that, yes, Quan had a bit of a down year last year. He still was what, a 3-win player. Quan's a heck of a player, man, and he's a really valuable piece.
I think Luis Ariz is a first baseman masquerading as a second baseman, and I think
Yes.
Stephen Kwan is a center fielder that is elevated in left.
Yes. Bingo.
There we go. Okay, Mr. Layton, what's wrong with Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks? Corbin Carroll, at this point in his first 27 games of the 2024 campaign, is slashing 189, 295, 236. One homer, 5 driven in. He's punched out 21 times. Yeah, he's 8 for 10 in the stolen base department, but something is clearly not right offensively. Ketel Marte is the one keeping Arizona afloat right now. And so much of the dialogue that we have had about Corbin Carroll leading up to last year, at the end of 22 when he debuted and was awesome, had an 830 OPS in his first 32 games, leading into 23 when he won the unanimous Rookie of the Year. And every time we talked about Carroll through the postseason, it has been, this guy is never going to go cold. He's got such a ridiculously high floor. We're seeing the floor.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I think it's injury related, but this has to be somewhat body related.
It seems like it, right? But that's the hard part because, you look at the numbers since that injury or, since that shoulder. And it's so weird because we talked about it when we saw his arm hanging like that. I was floored that it wasn't a worse injury.
Yeah, like months. I saw that and I was like, he's done for a month.
I just can't imagine a guy like that just being, with his arm hanging. And then, you could see him still kind of fighting it for a little bit even after that. And then for it to just naturally be all good again.
Yeah.
So I am worried about that. And I know that some people have put numbers out there that, reflect what his stats have been since that swing that he came out of the game and, was only out for a couple of days and then was right back in it. The challenge is, we see guys in their sophomore year, in this second season, slump all the time and start slow all the time. And so that's where it's hard to try to separate the two and say, hey, is this maybe just the league adjusting to him a bit and he's just going through a bit of a dry spell? Or is this a byproduct of what was an injury for him? Because he wasn't great, after that injury at the end of last year. I don't know what the exact numbers were in the postseason. He did seem to capture, the ability there and looked more like Corbin Carroll again, but, that could have been emptying the tank and adrenaline and things like that. I am worried that it is injury related with that lead shoulder. We're seeing so many guys jack up their shoulders, from swings all of a sudden because they generate so much force, and especially Carroll generating a ton of force for, his frame. Nobody with his frame has any business producing a 90th percentile exit velocity of 106 miles an hour. Like that's, again, plus exit velocities from a guy who's 5'8", 5'9". It's a lot for the body to withstand. And there's been a lot of instances where you don't really know the scope of damage to a shoulder until you go in there. So I am worried about that. And I do wonder, after the struggles continue, if they have him undergo another MRI or check something out, or if they're just going to keep coming out and saying, hey, he's totally fine. That conspiracy theory isn't really valid, but I struggle to believe that he could fall this dramatically given his game and the way that he is. And when you look at the batted ball data in terms of contact rates, chase rates, all that good stuff, it's not like he's getting fooled. It's not like he's getting overpowered. It just looks like he's not really hitting the ball with the same impact. as we've seen in the past, and really with the same angles as we've seen in the past.
A lot of just based on like what you can watch, a lot of B swings, it seems. Like a lot. And that might be unfair because, that guy, like the reason he's as good as he is the A swing and the B swing really don't look that different, but it just feels like there's a lot of B swings. There's not C swings where he's just trying to like put bat on ball, but there's a lot of, oh, I'm not really going to sell out and try and drill this thing 450 feet like we know Corbin Carroll can do. The postseason point that you made, he had a 770 OPS in the postseason, but he went down the later he got into the postseason. Like he had a great 2 games against the Dodgers or against the Brewers in the wild card. Then he had an awesome 3 games against the Dodgers, but they went 7 with Philly. He had a 490 OPS in that series. They go 5 with Texas. He had a 610 OPS in that series. So it's not like he was really lighting the world on fire after those front 5 games that he played in the postseason. So maybe that invigoration of the postseason started to wear off the deeper he got into it, as weird as that sounds. And, he was really starting to feel it a little bit.
I mean, and remember, that's a shoulder that he already had surgically repaired his like first year of pro ball. So
Yeah.
it's the same shoulder. Again, I don't want to speculate because it's tough when they're telling you no, he's fine. And you can look at the story from the second half of last year, right around in July when it happened, where they said, no, we did imaging, it all looks good. And he says he has no soreness and there's no inflammation and everything looks fine. So it's like, how can we say that it is when the doctors aren't? It's just, I guess we're just trying to explain what might just be an uncharacteristic slump for Corbin Carroll. It's just it becomes concerning when it overlaps from the back end of last year. And then, yes, of course, you have the postseason, like you mentioned, but it wasn't like he was looking right like first half Corbin Carroll again. It's too early. He's earned himself way more of the benefit of the doubt. But, when do you start sounding the alarms, Jack? We're 122 plate appearances in. And alarms just meaning like, what's going on
Right
here
now. Yeah.
right now?
Yeah, that's why it's on the just base. So you know what I mean? Like we weren't sounding him a week ago, but like another week goes by and we're now a month into the season and he had a really bad month. The thing is, I'm not willing to sound him on a lot of guys a month in, but I'm willing to sound him on a guy that is consensus among the industry, seemingly like seemingly immune to slumping, right?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of the booking on him. And that was really what I know ended up separating him from Gunnar Henderson when you were filling out the top 100. It's like, okay, the dips in these guys' performances, Carroll is going to be so high. He's going to walk a lot. He's going to swipe a bunch of bags. And yeah, he's swiping a bunch of bags, but like he's walking a good bit, yet it's really still looking like a severe slump. And I just didn't think severe slump was going to be in a Corbin Carroll conversation ever.
When you kind of figured like he wouldn't swing and miss too much, and the speed, he'd slap the ball and play when he's slumping, steal some hits, walk like you said, and he'd survive. I think it's fair to say that this is probably the point to which to be concerned because I mean we've even seen Torey Lovullo drop him in the lineup, and
He
he's
hit
now
seventh on Sunday.
he's hit seventh or eighth for his last 4 games, and
Oh,
in those last 4 games he's 0 for 13 with 6 strikeouts.
dude.
So yeah, you're right. It is definitely time to be concerned. And what is also bizarre to me is that it's fastballs too that are really chewing him up.
Which makes me think it's like I don't want to say that, but like that makes me think that something's not right physically if it's heaters that are getting to him.
I agree. So, I mean, I'm going to have my eyes on this one for a while. And I know that the local media is going to start to ask questions because it doesn't make sense. And, I know people want answers and an answer of just my shoulder's fine. I don't know what's going on. I'd almost rather them say, we're going to check it out, see what's going on, even though he doesn't feel pain and see, if there's any limitations strength wise, explosion, like maybe it's a surgically repaired shoulder. You
Yes.
never really know what's totally going on in there until again, you go in. So hopefully he gets right. Maybe they have him like Phantom IL him and just get his body right. But again, from what they're telling us, his body is right, which is almost worse.
Yeah, it's really tough. All right, a couple more guys. Certainly the longest that will go on a cold guy in Corbin Carroll, but Colt Keith, guy who signed a pre-debut extension. is off to a brutally slow start to his major league career. 25 games, he's slashing a buck 61, 232, 172. He's got one extra base hit in 95 plate appearances. That ain't Colt Keith. A 480 or a 404 OPS. This ain't Colt Keith. And guess what? 95 plate appearances, 17 punchouts. K rate's under 20%. It's not like he's striking out left and right. We knew that he wasn't going to strike out left and right. What's going on? Is it a bad luck thing? Is it weak contact? Like, what's happening with him?
He's a tough one to peg, man. Like I think it's mostly bad luck. I think if you look at a lot of the, expected stats too, they're not great, but they're better. Like if he was anywhere close to his expected stats, we're not talking about him.
Right.
So I think that part of it is interesting. I see a guy that's walking at a league average rate, striking out, like you said, less than 18% at the time. And I do think that we talked about it in the rookie, kind of just check-in episode. I think America's just kind of playing some mind games on him a little bit too, with a couple deep fly balls that didn't get out, and then maybe just trying to press a bit too much. Because when you look at a lot of the underlying stuff, like, yeah, he's hit the ball harder in the past, and that's something that probably just because he's facing better pitching, the average EV is down a little bit, but he's still hitting the ball hard enough. He's still producing above average contact rates. The chase rates are palatable. Like everything has been fine from an underlying perspective. And then the expected stats are, close to a decent range. I'm the least concerned, I think, about Keith of any of like the young guys that are struggling. And I still do believe that he's going to get out of it. But, I said that a week ago. And since then, he hasn't really done too much better. So, we'll see. But I still kind of stand by it. I do think that this is a unique situation where, you get the pre-debut extension. There's some mental aspects to it. You're in one of the harder ballparks to hit in, period. And I just think that it's been a couple balls not bouncing his way. Like, even if you look at the last 5 games for him, he's walking at an 11% clip. He's striking out at a 16% clip. But he only has one hit there. Like, I think they're going to start falling a little bit more. We're definitely not seeing the slug that we've seen, but that's typical. A lot of times, guys, the slug doesn't come until they get comfortable again. The problem is we're not seeing the hit either right now, and I think that's where the luck comes in a bit.
Yeah. I don't want to hear the O word attached to Colt Keith. I don't think that should be happening. And the reason that it was okay that the word option came up with Jackson Holliday and not Colt Keith is because it's entirely different situations.
Been blown away.
Yeah, like Holliday was getting blown up. He was striking out all the time. He was the runt of the litter in that lineup. And frankly, like there was no financial attachment to him at that point. Like they called him up before the service year deadline, which was crazy. But, they're also trying to win the World Series in Baltimore. Detroit is good. They're trying to win the division, but you got to give what they paid the future, one of the faces of their franchise moving forward. You got to give him as much runway as humanly possible. Treat him like a Rule 5 pick. He's on your 26-man roster. You have to have that happen. And listen, like Chorio's not off to a great start. They're not sending that dude to Nashville. So I don't want to see the word option attached to Colt Keith at all because he needs 162 at the major league level. And he could be a guy that like struggles over 162 but bounces back next year because he's a dog.
And I think the one key to watch is he elevating more? And I think that also ties back into the Comerica effect. This is a guy that we love the batted ball profile because he had a ground ball rate of 35% last season and above average EVs and above average contact rates. So far this year, ground ball rate of 47%. That's not Colt Keith. And it's going to be a lot harder to consistently succeed when you're, a guy that's always elevated, now putting the ball on the ground. So I think that's the thing to monitor. And I think he can get there, but I'm with you. He gets all of the leeway, all of the run in the world, and just be patient, especially if you're a Tigers fan. There's a lot of good things coming, and Colt Keith is one of them.
Yeah, and he's already there. So, like, appreciate it and root for him and feel bad when he has, like, a tough luck line out and feel great when a little looper falls in shallow left. 2 more guys, both in the American League East. I'm not feeling Randy, baby, right now. Hitting a $152 with a 226 OBP. Randy Arozarena is kind of embodying what's going on with Tampa. And the vibes are, the City Connects are awesome. The vibes are brutal in Tampa right now. And Randy is the guy that everybody's going to point to and be like, what's going on here? Obviously, Yandy Diaz is not hitting to his standards. Jose Siri has been one of the worst qualified hitters in baseball so far this year. But the thing is, like, we saw that from Siri. We saw him punch out all the time. We knew that there were issues. Randy Arozarena, since he debuted in 2020 in 23 games, he debuted with St. Louis, but he only got 23 plate appearances. He had a 1022 OPS in 23 games in 2020. 815 when he won Rookie of the Year in 21. 773 in 22, 789 in 23. We're expecting this guy to be consistent offensively. We're not expecting him to be an elite defender in a corner outfield spot. We're expecting him to hit. We're expecting him to get caught on the base paths a lot, but we're expecting him to go 2020 and hit 270. And we're just not getting anything close to that right now from Randy.
It's pretty surprising, right? Because I think you mentioned it. Just it's you can kind of count on the consistency there, and there just seems to be a lot more swing and miss so far this season. They could probably use that Junior Caminero guy, huh? Like, I hope they call him up sometime soon. But it's just it's a unique and weird situation considering that that's like the guy that you kind of want to count on. But if you look back to like the second half of last year, Randy wasn't really good then either. If you go back to like July 15th, 700 OPS. If you go back to, right around that range, then he picked up in the back end and then he fell back off again in the back end. So I guess like, yes, he's consistent from like a macro, like each season and a whole standpoint, but I think he's just always going to be a streaky hitter. So I just think you got to take it from where it's coming from. Just normally everyone else in the lineup's hitting. Yeah. Or other guys are hot to offset it, and then he'll pick up and you don't notice it as much. But when the team's really struggling, I think the streakiness of Randy, the light starts to shine on the lulls a little bit more. Whereas when Yandy's raking, all those other guys are putting up numbers and they're somehow just winning ball games left and right. You kind of forget that Randy's not doing well and he's always going to have the flair. He's always going to do something fun and whatever. And he's the kind of guy that you probably always think is doing better than he really is because of just the way that he plays. And I don't think he's ever really been in a situation where everyone looks at him and says, hey, we really need you to pick up here, other than the playoffs, which is that's what he makes his living on. So I think he's going to be fine, but I just think we're more keyed in on the streakiness of him right now with the team surprisingly struggling.
Okay, panic meter check. Houston Astros first. You were at what, a 6 when we last checked? I was at a 3.5.
I was at like did I say 6?
I thought you said 6 or 7.
I was high. I was definitely high. I don't know what it was, but 6 is the minimum.
I thought you said 6 or 7. Are you still at a 6 or 7? Are you less panicked, more panicked? What's going on?
I'm easy 8.5.
You're 8.5 on the Houston Astros right now. I think I've elevated from a 3.5 to probably a 4.5. I don't know where Peter's at. He said what, 1? And
I remember saying like I'm terrified, petrified, and went on a crazy rant. So if I threw out a 6 after that,
I think you threw out like a 6 at the end of the conversation. So good.
attaboy. No, I definitely am at an 8.
Okay,
sure.
So you're at an 8. I'm at like a 4.5. Tampa, where are you at? Scale of 1 to 10. Panic meter.
Lower for sure.
Really? I am higher. I'm at a 5.5, 6.
So my thing is they have so many reinforcements potentially coming.
Yeah.
That like
Taj Bradley looked amazing in a rehab with Durham.
And I mean, he will be a very welcomed addition. They will bring up Caminero, who has a chance to, and I don't want to count on a rookie totally, but if you're going to count on a rookie, he's one of them that can just totally invigorate this lineup. They're going to get, Josh Lowe back very soon. I think he's already been rehabbing and should be back in the
saw
fold.
He was a bit delayed. He
Okay.
felt soreness or tightness or something.
You assume he'll be back sometime this year. And then the pitching side of things. I mean, I don't know what the timeline is on. We know Bradley's going to be back. Shane Baz, you hope that oblique thing goes away and he'll come back sometime soon. You have Johnny DeLuca, who should be back in a few weeks. You have Aranda, Brandon Lau, whatever you get at this point, it's going to be more than what you've been getting, which is 0. And then, I don't know what the latest is on some of the other arms, but you hope that maybe 1 or 2 of them can come back. I'm a little less worried with them because I just trust their ability to piece it together a little bit more. And also, the Rays bullpen's been shockingly terrible. If anyone can totally turn around their bullpen in the middle of a season, I think it's the Rays. Yeah. So I'm going to put a 5 on the panic meter for the Rays.
Okay.
Astros are 9-19.
When did they call up Alex Jackson? Tampa.
Probably soon, to be honest.
He's got a 990 OPS.
And every time I watch a Durham Bulls game, he goes deep. I've never seen anything like
I
it.
would say call up Ronnie Simon for the vibes, but he's OPSing 680 right now. So
Oh damn, he's slumping all of a sudden.
yeah, tough.
That's
Really tough for us. But yeah, I hear you. Last guy that we got to talk about here
tough.
is Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette at this point is slashing 210, 263, 305. Five doubles, a homer, 10 driven in 27 games. It's a 568 OPS. The defense has not gotten as good as Peter was hoping it would get. What, like, all right, panic level for Toronto because Vladdy's OPSing like 640.
Yeah, he's no good either right now. So I mean,
Damn it.
High, very high. I am more. If I had to pick one team moving forward, it's without a doubt the Rays over the Jays for me.
Okay.
I figure that Bichette and Vladdy are going to turn it around to a degree, but man, like those are supposed to be your guys. Varsho being great is awesome, and even then, they're a game under 500. I don't know how much I trust the pitching. We can't count on the Ricky Tiedemann reinforcement since he's now dealing with fortunately no structural damage, but dealing with some elbow pain. I don't know if I see things getting much better for them. They do have Barger and Orelvis, in the fold. I just don't think they need superstars to hit like superstars. And so far, they have had some guys step it up in the early going, and I don't know if you can count on them to do it the whole year. I'm probably more concerned about the Blue Jays. And with Bichette, man, like I know he'll be better. Like he has to be better. And he's proven that, I think over several years now that he is, not this player. But you're not getting defensive value from him. And yeah, that's definitely not going to be better this season. I think he's had a couple errors taken away from him too. He could easily be worse. But the guy he's never been a guy that pulls the ball. He uses the whole field, and that's fine. And there's a lot of guys that have low pull rates and have success, but he's pulling the ball 0 this year. And that's the weird part to me. Like it is legitimately no pull, and that's why we're seeing minimal power. I mean, if you look at his spray charts, it's wild. You are pretty much going to see everything the other way. And as a guy that, can hit the ball hard and needs to hit doubles and slug. And I mean, I feel like pitchers are just going to keep busting him inside and daring him to turn it around. He has one of the deeper contact points that you're going to see in baseball. There's a lot of hitters that are quick enough and have the path to get away with it, but it's even deeper now and he's not getting away with it. So I think that's been a big part of the struggles here. And he can tweak it. He's such a freak with his hands, and I think he'll be okay. But there's definitely some data, markers that show, hey, Bichette's not doing what he normally does, and he needs to figure something out and tweak something to get back to where he needs to be.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about this Jays lineup because Bichette, again, Bo Bichette's OPSing 568 right now. Vladdy's at 659. Kevin Biggio has been like a bright spot for them in the everyday lineup, and he's OPSing 688. Springer, OPSing 654. IKF, playing way too much, OPSing 652. And if you had a must-win game and you're wearing John Schneider's hat, who's your starting catcher? Mine's Danny Jansen.
Yeah, mine's Danny Jansen.
Crazy. Alejandro Kirk, a 567 OPS so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's time to start to look at him and say maybe that was a flash in the pan. And for a lot of reasons.
That Gabby Moreno deal. And again, Varsho, awesome, but like that Gabby Moreno deal hurts so bad right now.
You got to know what you have. It's not always about who you're trading. It's who's going to now for sure be in that role moving forward. One other note on elevating for Bo Bichette, elevating to the pull side, pulling it. Sorry, elevating to the pull side is super important. I mean, for obvious reasons. He's hit 34 balls at a launch angle above 15 degrees, and only 2 of them have been pulled. So, I mean, we need to see this guy pulling the ball in the air, or else it's going to be really hard for him to find hits. You can't just inside out everything. You're definitely not going to do much damage, and it's a lot harder to get balls to fall. And if you look at the spray chart again, a lot in the infield, and then anything in the air is the other way. Guy needs to hit to be valuable for them, and he's not been hitting, and he's always super aggressive. So when he's not hitting, it's it's a gaping hole.
Sure. All right. That sweet Adidas polo that Aram Leighton is wearing, guess what? It's summertime. It's super breathable, and it's available on justbaseball.com. New merch is out. Doggy bandanas are out.
Yes.
Go get a doggy bandana for your pooch. All right. A whole bunch of great written stuff on justbaseball.com. Excellent work from Patrick Lyons covering the Mexico City series for us. And I mean, Kevin Henry just had a one-on-one conversation with Dylan Cease that's out right now. The entire writing staff is kicking ass. Podcast network is humming. We're very thankful to be in the position that we're in right now. And yeah, we will talk to you guys on Wednesday.
Sounds good. I have one more thing real quick.
Oh yeah, what is it?
I put out a new new YouTube series that I want to start doing is like kind of this week in minor league baseball. I'm gonna figure out exactly what we're gonna title it. It should be out by the time you're listening to this show on the Call Ups YouTube. And 10-minute video roughly every single week telling you everything that happened in the minor leagues with highlights. And I'm hoping that it becomes something that people get excited about and can give you the recap of everything that's going on at every level in minor league baseball. And hopefully it'll be an appointment view for folks. And I would love to get your feedback and check that out on the Call Ups YouTube because it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. So if that's something that people end up enjoying, definitely would love to keep doing it.
Cool beans. All right, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.